Good morning, everyone. Um, I don't think I've met any of you. My name is Andrew Lindquist. I am the Women's Business Center Director here at Women Venture. So I oversee all things programming and anything that we use for education for our clients. So excited to be here with you all today to talk about market research and analysis. This is one of my favorite class sessions of any classes that we teach to get to teach. So always a treat to get to pop in for this one. So excited to be here. I've been with Women Venture for a few years. My background is in education. I started as a ninth grade English teacher. I moved into higher education, and then my focus became more around adult education and how we make adult education respectful and kind and useful learning experiences. So that's how I ended up here. And I am a small business advisor. I love what I do. I'm excited to get to talk about market research with all of you because I think as we're just getting started as business owners, this is one of the most important things we can do to mitigate the risk that comes with starting a business. So here's what we got on the agenda for the day. We're going to start with some elevator pitch practice. Last week, you got that kind of script for an elevator pitch. And even if you haven't really filled it out, we're going to give each other a chance to practice giving your pitch and just seeing how it goes and remembering that this is about practice, not perfection. So it's okay if it's not the cleanest or most perfect thing in the world because we got to practice it to get it to a good place. And then we're going to talk about market research on a high level, what it is, what it can help you with, how to get started. And then we'll talk about what you do with market research, how it influences your business development, how it influences your strategy, how to identify market gaps and channels, how to use it consistently throughout your business ownership, not just before you get started, but all the time as an entrepreneur. Um, and then we'll talk about branding, which is really what I think a lot of people think about when they think about marketing. So your brand feel and visuals, but also the kind of idea behind your brand. What's your mission? What's your vision? What problems are you solving for your customer? What are the goals of your business that you're trying to get across? That kind of thing. So that's what we're going to be covering today. But what we're going to start with, I actually think we'll probably need a little less than 10 minutes. I'm going to do 8 minutes. I'm going to put you in pairs and you're going to do introductions. You're going to meet with this group a couple times throughout the next 5 sessions. Or the next 4 sessions, but you're going to do introductions, say hey, and then you're going to practice your elevator pitch. So, each person gets an opportunity to present and then giving each other feedback, asking questions. Sometimes in an elevator pitch, especially if we know our business idea really well, we struggle to get across exactly what we do. So it's a really good time to check, like, maybe if you're feeling that way, you give your elevator pitch and say like, hey, can you like talk back to me what you think my business is and just like make sure that you're on the same page, that kind of thing. Or maybe you're asking questions and saying, okay, this is what I think your business is doing, or this is what I think the services are that you're offering, but can you check me and tell me if that's right? And that's really good and useful ways to use each other, and make sure that your business is understood and that you're getting your point across. So what I'm going to do is I'll put us into breakout rooms for the next 8 minutes. They're going to close automatically in 8 minutes. So there's going to be a little timer in the top right of your breakout room that's going to be counting down. I'll shoot out a little reminder when there's a little bit of time left, but just know that it's not one of those things where there's like an extra minute or extra time after that. So, um, all right, I think any questions before I kick you out? Radical, let's do it. Got all my settings right. I've got all my Cubans in the right places. Let's go. Terry, are you seeing the breakout room prompt? Welcome back, everybody. Let me reshare my screen. All right, so I hope that that was a useful piece of practice for you, regardless of how like jazzed you feel about how that went. It's good for us to continue to put ourselves in a position where we have to practice giving our elevator pitch, because the only way that we can improve it is just with continued use and with continued refining. So maybe you're going to take some time to kind of look over what you had said, review it, and maybe make some tweaks and adjustments. Or maybe you're like, I need to start from ground zero and work my way back up to something. But our elevator pitch is a really important part of our business because it is super crucial when we're networking and we're connecting with people who we either want to partner with, who do similar business, who we want to sell to. All of that's really important. So getting your elevator in a pitch in a place that you feel really proud of is a challenge, but it is one of the first big steps we could take. So I'm glad we got an opportunity to do that. Before we jump into talking about market research, I want to just make a quick reminder about your workbook. You want to make sure your workbook is downloaded and saved to your computer. Just know that if you are editing your workbook in an internet browser, like outside of Google Drive, because Google Drive has autosave. But if you're working on your workbook in an internet browser, it doesn't automatically save. So I just want to make sure that you are mindful of that so that we don't work on something for our session today and then have it disappear into the abyss. But I'm going to throw it in the chat again in case anybody's like, I can't find it. I don't know where to start. I'm just throwing it in the chat for you so you can pick up where we are today. But I went over the agenda a little bit earlier. Let's talk about objectives for our session. The first one's kind of hefty, but we're talking about how to conduct market research and identify target markets and customer needs and competition. And then in addition to that, understand how we can use that to influence the products and services we offer, the development of our business, the strategy of our business. So not just this is what market research is and how we do it, but this is how we then use it to advance and elevate our business, not just as we're starting up, but in general throughout business ownership. And then the second thing is talking about building a brand and why it's important. We're going to talk about both ends of building a brand. First is the kind of conceptual side of things, your mission, vision, values, the marketing kind of statements that you want to get across, what's the messaging you want to get across, and then that visual branding, things like colors and logos and fonts and stuff like that. We'll touch on that a little bit. So a few key terms for today. Number one is market research. This is gathering and analyzing data about three things, which is customers, competition, and industry trends. Market research is one of those things that can happen really concretely, like I'm going to sit down and do market research, but market research is also something that we can do passively, like I'm paying attention to what I'm seeing on social media as I'm scrolling. I'm keeping an eye on how other people are. If I'm starting a coffee shop, when I go to another coffee shop, I'm just curious and I'm looking around and seeing what they're doing. I'm talking to people in my life just casually, right? So market research isn't always like a sit in front of my computer and sort through data kind of thing. Target market is the specific group of people or businesses that your product or service is designed for and marketed to. We can talk about this a little bit more later, but when I'm talking about target market, this is like your ideal customer. These are the like core people that your product or service is designed for. There are often so many more people who will consume or participate in your product or service, but your target market is who it's designed for. They're the core people that you're going after in your marketing efforts. They are the people that you have in mind as you design and refine your product. And the thing with target market that we get caught up in a lot as small business owners, and especially in early stages, is feeling bad about narrowing our target market. But it is really useful to have a super clear and narrow target market and say, like, this is who my product is designed for. This is who I'm coming after. And other people may find value in, participate in my product, but these are the people who are at the core of my work. For example, Women Venture, we serve anybody who's a small business owner looking for development, but the core of our work, who we're going after, who we're targeting, is small business owners and entrepreneurs that are women in the Twin Cities area. But we serve people in a larger area, we serve men, we serve non-binary folks, we serve anybody, but the target market that we have is women entrepreneurs in the 16-county Twin Cities area. Demographics, when we start talking about market research, this is the study of the physical characteristics of a specific group of people. We're talking about race, age, gender. We're talking about socioeconomic status. We're talking about where people are located, that kind of thing. And then the last thing is competition. When we're thinking about competition, we want to define that as other businesses that are typically of a similar size, typically within the same industry and market, and typically offering similar products or services. Sometimes when we have a really unique idea, it's easy to be like, I don't have any competition. No one else is doing this. However, it's important for us to consider what could be a competitor, what could be an alternative to what we do that people might select. And being mindful of that, because every business has competition. And the more mindful and honest and real we are with ourselves about what that competition might be, allows us to plan effectively, market effectively, be more nimble in the business landscape. So, what is market research? Market research is gathering, analyzing, and interpreting information about a market being an area or a group or a, gathering of potential customers. We're looking at the potential customers, the competitors, the overall environment of the work that we're doing, right? What are the trends that are seen in the industry? What are people looking for out of that industry? What do they value? For example, if we think about like a large corporation like Target, their competitors, maybe Walmart, for example, the overall business environment, what Target is probably seeing is people are feeling the pressure of inflation, and they're probably making less like extraneous purchases. They're looking for good deals. Target's got to be mindful of that. People are also more focused on convenience and no contact ways to receive their material or receive their purchases than ever before, right? In a post-pandemic world, the importance of like Target's Drive Up, where you can order your stuff on the app, park in a parking spot, and they'll put it in your trunk for you. That wasn't as much of a thing, if at all, at most Targets 5 years ago, right? So knowing the business environment is really important for them. And then the last thing is just our goal here. Our goal is to gain insight that can help us make informed decisions. Market research is really important at the stage of entrepreneurship you're in because it helps us plan appropriately so that our risk is lower. The better we know our audience, the better we know our competition, the better we know the environment that we're getting into, the more informed and decisive we can be about the choices that we're making, which means less financial risk for us and more likelihood of success. That being said, I think it's really important when we talk market research to be mindful of giving ourselves parameters, because you can market research yourself to death. You can market research forever. There's so much to learn. There's so much out there. There's so much data and knowledge and competition to analyze and information from like government agencies about industry, things like that. It's important to give yourself some goals and parameters around what you want to learn and what you think is important for you to know at this stage in your business. and to not fall into the deep dark hole of the internet, especially when we're doing market research, because I don't want you to get so deep into research that you never take action, right? That you never start actually moving on your business. So when we talk market research, just know there's a little asterisk from me saying, don't get so deep that you don't make any action, that you don't start moving. So how do we use market research? There are a few things that I think, like high level things that people tend to use market research for when we're developing our business and developing our strategy. One, if you're looking for a location or a brick and mortar space, market research is going to be essential. You want to know the best location for your business. You're going to want to get to know what's the socioeconomic status of the area. How old are the people living in this area? And is that the demographic I'm looking to serve? For example, if I if I'm opening a childcare center, does the area that I have a lot of children and families with children at the age range that my childcare center would serve? And if not, people don't really like to drive across town for childcare, right? They want something that's local, they want something that's easy to access. So I want to make sure that I pick a location that fits that, right? That I'm putting myself in a position to be surrounded by potential customers. If my business really relies on foot traffic, for example, I'm opening a shop that like sells soaps and bath bombs and like spa things. Typically, a shop like that that's a little bit more curated, a little bit more like non-essential items requires a fair bit of foot traffic to get customers because people are walking by, they're going, oh, that's cute, I'm going to go inside, right? And that's how they make purchases. When your business isn't a destination, for example, and you're relying on that foot traffic, you want to make sure that you pick a location that has foot traffic. When we're thinking about products, is this what my consumers are buying right now? Thinking about the trends of the world that we're living in, thinking about the cost of materials, the cost to sell something and actually make a profit. Is this what people are buying? Is this what they're wanting? Pricing and products is really valuable for us. What are consumers willing to spend? What can they afford? What kind of buying power do they have? How much expendable income do your target market have? What are other people selling this product for or this service for? That's really important. If you're a service-based business, and particularly a service-based business in an industry where people aren't publishing their prices, this can be really tricky and it involves kind of an extra layer of market research where you need to start networking, getting to know people in the industry, and kind of positioning yourself as, hey, I'm getting started and I have no idea how to price myself, and I would really love to chat with you how you determined your pricing. That kind of thing is also market research. So I've got so many resources for you. This is a really dense slide. It's also in your workbook. When we're planning for market research, like I said, it's important to set our questions, to decide the things that we want to figure out before we go out into the world and start like seeking resources so that we don't fall into the deep dark pit of the internet and like not actually answer our own questions and get the resources we want. So when we're looking at the things that we're hoping to get out of our market research, here are some examples we can look at. In target market, we want to determine who our ideal customer is. So that means defining ages, genders, interests, preferences, the lifestyle of our potential customers. What kind of social media are they using? What does their digital footprint look like? How much do they care about things like being eco-friendly? How much do they care about things like political activism? How much do they care about things like businesses that are, super established? How much do they care about supporting small business? Learning those things and really determining what their needs are and what their challenges are allows you to build products and also marketing that's designed to attract those customers. When we're talking location, we want to think about who are our ideal customers and where are our ideal customers. So We research multiple locations, we explore different areas, we identify areas that have high foot traffic or where events and gatherings occur. We really think about where are the people that are going to come to my business and how close do I need to be to them. If you have more of a destination product or destination business. So for example, I think about a client of mine who owns like a clay studio and she does um ceramics classes and things like that. She doesn't have to be in the center of an area with a ton of foot traffic because a majority of her business is coming from people who are traveling to her location to be customers of her location. She still wants to be close to the customers that she wants to serve. She's located in South Minneapolis in a really artsy neighborhood, right? So that fits her bill, but she doesn't need to be super foot traffic heavy business space. She doesn't have to be in a really walkable area. So that's not super essential for her business. So you want to be thoughtful about things like that and then just get really curious about what's out there. The other thing about location, if you're looking for a brick and mortar space, is you want to be working with a commercial real estate agent. Even if you're looking to rent, a commercial real estate agent can help get you in a variety of spaces. They're going to help you navigate building out a space, things like that are really important, and something that it's worthwhile for you to spend your time researching. So if you are somebody that's ready to start looking for a commercial space and you're looking for recommendations, we can chat as well. When we're talking pricing strategy, you want to determine what your customers are willing to pay. Figure out a price range that your target audience is willing to pay for your offerings. So getting to know what your competition is selling their products and services for, and then kind of figuring out where you fall in the mix, knowing how much your product or service costs for you to create, and then how much you need to sell it for at minimum to make a good profit, to make a reasonable profit, which you'll talk about a little bit more tomorrow, next week in our finance session. But knowing that information and then figuring out where do I want to compare myself to my competitors? Do I offer premium services or products that are a little bit better than what they offer so I can price myself higher? Am I looking to be the cheaper alternative because I'm doing a more innovative process that's cheaper for me to produce, or I have access to something that makes it cheaper to produce? This is really valuable. My only caveat is that especially women entrepreneurs tend to underprice their products and services. So don't feel like you need to crazy underprice yourself just to get started and get customers. Make sure that you have a plan to ensure that the products and services you're selling are turning a profit. Competition, we want to look at what the competitive landscape is like. This is where we like turn into an FBI agent and start studying what everybody else is doing, right? Who is doing business like us? And maybe are they doing it in a location that we are interested in doing it? How is that going for them? Do they seem like they're successful? Do they seem like they're profitable? Does it seem like they've got a lot of customers? What does their following look like on social media? How are they showing up there? Um, how are they pricing their products and services? Do they have good reviews on Google? Do they have gaps that they're not filling that you could set your business apart by filling? For example, maybe you're starting a landscaping business and there's another landscaping business in the area that does like general, weekly landscaping, like upkeep work for their clients, but they don't offer like a big fall cleanup and a big spring cleanup service for their customers. And you can add that to your list of products and services so that you set yourself apart. We also want to think about channels. How can we reach our potential customers? Where do they exist that we can reach them? Especially thinking about like, okay, if I'm trying to research Gen Z, millennial type customers, I probably don't need to have a huge Facebook presence, but I do probably need to be on Instagram. And if I'm feeling brave, I need to be on TikTok too. Um, but my millennial and Gen Z customers are probably not going to read newspaper ads, right? And they maybe don't need radio ads for me to get in front of them. However, if I'm looking to really ingratiate my business into an immigrant community, there are a lot of really rich and involved like immigrant radio stations in the Twin Cities area, and maybe that's a way that I am going to get my business out there. Um and maybe if I'm looking to get like Gen X and Boomer clients in front of me, I need to be on Facebook. They're not necessarily going to be on TikTok in droves. So thinking about what are my strategies, right? Where is my customer? Where can I find them? And then the last thing here is key partnerships. Who am I doing business with? Looking for partners and suppliers and organizations that can support your business. If you're doing like any logistics, shipping products, things like that. For example, we have a volunteer named Susan Otten. She owns a logistics company called Indie Do Good, and her entire business is centered around helping small business owners, and particularly women who have independent small businesses, with the logistics of their business, storing product in her warehouse, shipping that packaging and shipping that product, things like that. Looking for partners that fit the needs of your business. And then trying to identify potential partnerships that align with your business values. For example, we have a client who runs a packing business. So they do estate clear out, they do packing, they do organizing. And one of her biggest partners are real estate agents, because so many real estate agents are working with families that have to do estate clear out. So many real estate agents are partnering with folks who um, are looking to get packing services done, things like that. And being a referral through that, so valuable. So we're going to take some time to pause. That was a ton of information. In your workbook, exercise 2-1, there's a little bit of space for you to brainstorm what kind of questions you want answered, what things you're like, ooh, I should figure this out, or like, I really want to figure this out for my business, or I think this is going to be an important piece of information. I want you to take 5 and just think through, I'm going to leave this up. Think through the things that you feel are important for you to learn and figure out about your business. So 5 minutes to work on exercise 2-1. And I'm here if you have questions as you're working.
What was the name of the lady who helps with logistical type of storage things that you mentioned?
The business is Indie Do Good,
Uh,
and
how do you say it?
the Indie Do Good. I can put it in the chat too.
Oh, cool. Thank you. And my computer was turned down in the very beginning when we first started, so I didn't hear how do you pronounce your name?
Andra,
Andra. Okay, nice to meet you. I'm Shalon.
nice to meet you too. I'm gonna give you about 1 more minute. Don't worry about answering any of your questions yet. Just think about what questions you have that you want to get answered. All right. Find a place to pause what you're writing. Pause all your ideation. We're going to talk about actually conducting your market research. Now that you've had a chance to think through what do I want to learn from market research, how do we do that? Because it is the Wild West on the internet, right? So we want to be thoughtful about the ways that we can look for market research information online. But there are also ways that we can look for market research information that have nothing to do with the internet. So I want to make sure we talk about those too. So I've broken this chart down in the same way that that last one was. So if you look at this, right, who are our ideal customers? Here are some resources where you can find that information. If you're looking at the digital version of your workbook, all of these are hyperlinked so that you can go straight to them. You don't have to like search around on the internet to where to find that information, but I want to highlight a few of my personal favorites for these purposes. So when we're talking target market, there are a couple ways you got to do this. You want to figure out and define who your target market is, right? Age, race, gender, location, things like that. I really like using the US Census Bureau website because we had a census very recently. So that data is super up to date, right? It's really good data. It's really useful. If you're a numbers person and you want to be looking for like how many people that fit my demographic live in this geographical area, gorgeous. I also think that can be really useful for determining your location. Using the US Census Bureau website. I also think just like being on social media, if that's where your customers exist, and getting familiar with like how they operate in their stories, what kind of things they're looking for, what kind of things they're following, that can be useful. But also Google Trends is a really great feature, again, hyperlinked in your workbook. But Google Trends allows you to see what search and like browsing trends people are having, so you can kind of see what people are looking up, what people are interested in, things like that. And when we're talking about location, where our ideals customers are, Google Maps is useful for us to help find competitors. We can search by industry on Google Maps. Like if I'm opening a craft store, I can search craft store, right? And zoom out and see where those are located, see if there are gaps. We can also use MN Compass if you're looking to open a brick and mortar space here in the Minnesota area. MN Compass is really useful because you can search by industry and kind of get a map of other folks in the industry and where they're located. The only tricky part with MN Compass is they don't update as often, so you might have to do some back end work to like find the accurate website for a business, or to find to like ensure that somebody still is in business. They just don't update as often, so that's my kind of caveat for them. When we're looking for pricing strategy, the SBDC publishes pricing data and data about costs often. I really like that, but I also think the best way to learn about how to do pricing for your business is to get familiar with your competitors' websites. And like I talked about earlier, if you're in an industry where people don't publish their costs or their prices, for example, I'm thinking like the wedding industry. Nobody publishes how much their prices and services cost. However, I have found that folks who kind of network and approach other business owners or in industry and say like, hey, I'm just getting started, I'm trying to figure out my pricing, I would love to talk to you about the work you do and how you price your products and services. Sometimes it takes like reaching out to quite a few people to get in touch with somebody, but that can be really useful. If you have a product-based business, it's a lot easier to figure out your competitors' pricing, and I encourage you, if you're able to even spend some time being a customer of your competitors. We also wanna learn a little bit about our competitive landscape, so looking at Google Maps to figure out who's even out there, using their websites and getting really familiar with the products and services they're offering, and also thinking about like, "Well, what aren't they offering here? Who aren't they serving?" There's also a tool called Size Up that can help with that as well. Size Up is really helpful for looking at who the competition is. Um, Again, similar to MN Compass, it's not updated quite as often, so it's not like to the moment accurate. I think they update it on an annual basis, so there is a little kind of double checking that you would need to use, but it can give you a good place to start. When we're talking channels, how do our potential customers find us? My favorite place to look for research is Statista. Um, they have a bunch of research about, like, customer trends and how people operate and how people buy and things like that. That's a really good place to just kinda poke around and research. Uber Suggest does something really familiar or really similar. And then key partnerships, if you're looking to partner with particular industries, if you're looking to partner with particular organizations, you're gonna wanna do that research kind of loosely and widely, but if you're looking to find associations to work with, for example, that example of the packing and organizing business, an estate clear out business that wants to work with realtors, she worked directly with an association for realtors, like a professional network of realtors, got in contact with them, and they had a vendor fair for people who do work that supports homeownership and home purchasing. She got to be a vendor at their fair and talk about her services, and that's how she made a lot of connections. She also went directly to corporations like Keller Williams and like I'm blanking on every realtor now. But she went directly to those realtor offices and was like, "Hey, I do work that can support your work. I would love to talk to your realtors about what I do and how we can partner together and the services I provide." And that was a way that she made those partnerships. I also want to note that if you're brave enough to kind of like foray a little into the AI space, ChatGPT is a really useful tool for market research. However, it is a generative tool, which means that it is creating responses based on what's out there on the internet. So you want to make sure that you double check the accuracy of anything that ChatGPT is telling you. So it's a really good place to get a foundation, a starting point of information, but then you wanna, like, do some extra Googling and fact check the information because it's not fact checking it for you. So that's a ton of research content. I want you to take a minute and look at your workbook, maybe pull out a piece of paper if you've got a paper workbook in front of you and circle or star a couple of these resources that you think are really standing out to you as, oh, I really want to dig into that. That seems like it would be useful for me. So making a note of it, circling it in your workbook if you've got a paper copy, but what do you think is going to be most useful for you? Take a minute. And as you're wrapping that up, I'm gonna push you into a little bit more work time. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna give you, let me look at how much I got left, and I wanna make sure I don't lie to you about how much time you have. Cool, I got plenty of time. Let's take 15 minutes, and I'm gonna just push you out to start playing with the online market research. When we come back, we'll talk about other strategies, things that don't involve being online necessarily as a way to market research. But I want to give you some time to just like start poking around. You're not going to finish all the market research for your business in 15 minutes unless you're like superhuman. So don't set that expectation for yourself. Make sure you're like, I'm just going to get started. I'm going to wet my feet. I'm going to figure out just a little bit, but I'm going to give you 15 minutes to get hit the ground running a little bit. And I'm here if you run into like this link isn't working or this resource, I don't know how to navigate the website. It's confusing me. I'm here for the next 15 minutes. Let's spend some time starting to dig into these tools. I'm gonna give you about 5 more minutes to keep working. Remember, you're not gonna finish in these 5 minutes, but 5 more minutes.
I have a question.
What's
Where
up?
I have a question. If we wanted to send our entire plan. I'm trying to think of what the word is for it. Can we send, who do we send it to look
So
over the business plan?
yeah, so we will use Talent LMS, which is the like online platform where all your resources and your Zoom link are. There's a little Dropbox that you can upload your plan to, and then our team will review it and give you feedback.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and find a place to stop and we can come back together. I'm sure for a lot of us, as we do that, it feels like you get more questions than answers as you're getting started. I think that's pretty common in the world of market research. Again, my advice for you is to be really mindful of the scope of what you're trying to find so that you don't fall in the deep dark hole of the internet. But also just making this a continuous process, something you continue to review, something you continue to come back to. There are also lots of options for you in terms of ways that you can do market research outside of those resources I already shared. So providing surveys to people that are maybe your potential customers, or if you are operating a little bit, surveys to people who've been your customers. Focus groups for products can be really useful. If you're looking for a space to host that focus group, we're happy to have you in our office in St. Paul and have you in one of our spaces and you can host a focus group there. Monitoring social media, just making that a part of your kind of practice. If you have a business page for your social media, or if you don't, starting to follow other businesses that do the kind of work you want to do, starting to get familiar with what they're doing online. Another activity that can be really valuable is something called customer journey mapping. So kind of drawing out for yourself, what's the journey that a client takes from identifying I have a problem that I need to solve, all the way through like researching, becoming your customer, going through that process of either purchase or service with you to being a satisfied, happy customer, and mapping out what that looks like can be a really good way for you to nail down like what are the key processes, what are the key activities that I need to do to be successful, what do I want to highlight for people, what are the great things that I do that they might not find somewhere else. That can be super helpful. Once you're operating, A/B testing is also a great form of market research, sending one type of content or one type of, material and then trying something else. If you're doing a product-based business, maybe you're going to try out 2 different vendors for a product and see if like there's price difference, quality difference that's valuable to you. If you are sending out, you want to get more like customers putting in reviews. Maybe you're going to try 2 different ways to get people to post a review. Maybe it's you're reaching out via email after they make a purchase, or maybe you are putting a little like QR code for your Google reviews in their bag when they buy their product at your store, whatever that looks like, trying a couple different things to see what has the biggest results. And then the last thing is web analytics. If you have a website, once you start developing a website, social media pages, things like that, using the analytics of your website can be really valuable. So when you start a social media page for your business, particularly I'm thinking about Instagram, there's an option for you to set it up as a business page, which allows you to see the analytics on your posts, the views of your page, things like that in a way you can't with a personal page. Same thing goes for your website. There will be tons of data that comes to your website about how many people are clicking, where they're clicking, how many of those visits are converting to actual sales. That can be really valuable for you to inform what's working and what's not. All this to say, market research is kind of a hefty undertaking, is also an ongoing process. When you're looking to make decisions and changes in your business, when you're identifying this isn't really working and I feel like it could be better, or I think I want to do something new, but I'm not sure if it's worth it. It's worth the investment. Market research is your best friend. It's really, really useful for early stage business owners, but it's also something you should be regularly doing throughout the life of your business. You want to make sure that you're analyzing, you're researching, you're using the world around you to help inform the decisions you're making so that we're making less risky decisions and we can make sure that we're putting our business in a position to succeed. So I want to take a 3-minute break in case you need a bio break, you need to run and grab a glass of water. Let's take 3 minutes and I'm gonna give us a little timer so that I actually remember what 3 minutes is. Here we go. So let's take 3 minutes. And then we'll get back to it. All righty, that's 3 minutes. We're gonna come on back. And we're gonna switch gears here in the last 40 minutes of our time together today to talk about our second learning objective, which is how to build a brand and why it's important. This is a huge objective, and we're not going to be like experts on our brand and have like a beautiful, perfect logo and like brand guidelines by the end of this, but I hope we get to hit the ground running on the importance of this, kind of the process you can use to develop your brand. So when I'm talking about your brand, this is a whole bunch of things. It is not just a logo. It's our designs, our naming conventions, our graphics, our colors, but also the messages that we share, the values that we portray, the things that distinguish our service and our products from other businesses, especially other businesses who are doing the same or similar work. When we're talking about branding, using a consistent brand can help us be recognizable. It can also help us be trustworthy. For example, if you see like a big red circle with a smaller red circle inside of it, in your head, you're like, that's Target. I know that brand, right? having a recognizable brand is really useful. You also probably, if you shop at Target, recognize some of their internal brands. Like if I see a little arrow in the corner of something, I know it's the Up and Up brand, one of their generic brands, and I recognize that visually. And because of my experience, the consistency of that brand, I've developed a trust with that brand that, generally speaking, that's a brand that I can trust. I'll purchase those products because I know that they're going to be probably just as good as the regular product in like 99% of cases. Branding can also show potential customers, people who aren't your customers yet, what sets you apart from the competition in the market. And we'll talk about how that works in just a minute. So I'm going to introduce you to a tool that is kind of hefty. It's a big mental lift to develop something like this. But I think this can be a really core and central part of the way that you express your business to your potential customers. The Brand House is a tool that we recommend using because it allows you to have a one-page kind of capture of what your brand is, not just focusing on the visuals, but focusing on the meaning behind the core values behind your business. We call it a brand house because there's like a big overarching metaphor that I have here about what your brand means. So over the top of your entire brand, on that roof of your brand, is your mission. What is the purpose of your business? What are you, trying to get across to your customers? What's your goal? What is the purpose of the organization? That's the overarching thing that we're looking at. The vision section is, if you are familiar with architecture, we call that like the fascia, like right above the base of the house, that right below the roof. That's kind of I scrolled in the wrong place. So sorry. When we talk about the fascia or the vision, we're talking about what keeps, moisture off of your shingles, what keeps your gutters clean, things like that. Your vision statement is the constant informant for your business. It's how you support your mission. And we'll talk just a little bit here, the difference between mission and vision. But your vision is how you serve your mission. Like, what are you going to do to get yourself there? So as an example, Women Ventures' mission is to empower women to achieve economic success through their businesses, right? And our vision is a world where women-owned businesses are the economic engine powering our communities. So that vision of like, this is where we want to get, this is the goal we're going towards, and our mission is the work that we're doing to get us there. So that overarching ideas, those two big ideas, are really the core of what we do here with a brand house. And then the middle pieces are kind of the bits that support how we communicate that to our clients. So
could you repeat the vision, the three things in the vision?
Yeah, so here, let me actually skip to the next slide. This is helpful.
Okay.
So mission versus vision. When we're talking about mission, we're talking about these are our objectives. This is how we're going to achieve our goals. This is what we're doing and our purpose. When we're talking about vision, this is the future that we're looking at. This is what we hope to get out of our business. This is what we hope to achieve or help create through our business, what we're aspiring to be, what we're moving toward. So my example, right, Women Venture, we're helping women achieve economic success and through profitable and sustainable businesses. That is what we're doing. That's the how we achieve our goals. The purpose of our organization is to support women in creating profitable and sustainable businesses. Our vision as an organization is a world where women-owned businesses are powering the economic power behind our communities. That's like our pie in the sky, what we want to see, what we're working towards, and the mission is what we're doing to get us there. Okay. These statements can be really, really powerful for you to have kind of I like to think about them as a North Star, right? This is the core purpose of my business. This is the mission of my business and why we exist. And the vision is like, this is what we're working towards. And as we're picking up new opportunities, when we have something presented to us for a new product or a new service, a new partnership or a new speaking engagement, we can come back to our mission and vision and say, okay, does this fit our objectives and our purpose? And does this move us closer to the vision that we have? And if it's a no, then it's a no, right? We don't have to do everything, especially when we're getting started as business owners. There's this pressure to do everything, to like do it all, take every opportunity that's presented to us. But when we're being mindful about how you only have so many hours in the day, you want to be curious about, does this fit my mission? Does this serve the purpose of my organization? And then for my vision, does this get us closer to that? Does this help us get there? Does that answer your question, Terry?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Perfect. So we've got our mission vision, right? Let's get back to this super fun graphic. The kind of core of our house here, these are the foundations of like how we communicate that to our clients. Here's how we market our business under the umbrella of our mission and vision. So communication objectives, this is the example. Communication objectives are our benchmark, our planning and our decision making, how we're going to measure results, what are our goals with what we communicate in our business. Our value proposition is just our like, this is what we offer. This is the value that we provide. We also lay out here why our message is believable. Sometimes it's really valuable for us to put into words. This is why people should believe that my business is going to provide for them, because we have really experienced staff, because we have years of time in the field, because we really care about taking the time to dig into the details with you and answer all of your questions. Whatever that looks like for you, why is your message believable? When you think about your value proposition, why should people believe it? What is it about you and your business that makes it believable? Customer benefit, this is a huge thing for you to be able to articulate and define what's in it for your customer. It's a super great exercise for you to be able to write out, why would my customer want to be my customer? What do they get out of buying my product or service? Because the more we define that, the more easy it is for us when we do create marketing materials, when we do start posting online, creating our website, we can put that front and center. Here's what you're getting out of spending your money here. And then our target customer, again, we always want to have this a part of our brand because we want to make sure that we're clear on who we're trying to get our product in front of. Again, like we talked about earlier, oftentimes we serve a lot of people that are outside of our target customer, but we want to be really narrow and specific about who is the person this product or service is designed for. Who are the people that are really the center of, or the core major market of our business that we're really, really refining our product and services around? Who do we have in mind when we're building a new product or service? Who are we serving? Because if our target customer is literally anyone, then it's hard for us to narrow down and say like, okay, so what do people really need right now? All sorts of things. People need all sorts of things. But if we're thinking about, for example, 25 to 35-year-old women living in the Twin Cities who have some extra income and want to get their nails done, right? That target customer is different from literally everyone who has nails. If I'm opening a nail salon, right? We want to be super specific. And then at the bottom here, our foundation as an organization or as a company are our values and our priorities. What do we value as a business? Do we value efficiency? Do we value being eco-conscious? Do we value high quality customer service? What's at the core of what we care about? When you're thinking about this, if you think back to session 1, when you talked about the DAVE model, right? Desirability, achievability, viability, ethicality. This is like where we get to our ethics, right? What do we really value as an organization? And then we also can lay out here, what are our priorities? What are the most important things that we're hoping to achieve with our business? We might do like 10 things in our business. We might provide like a whole bunch of services, but what are the most important ones that are really at the core of our business? What are the products or services that we're offering that most align with our values, our mission, our vision? I'm going to give you an example because I think that helps put this all into perspective. Last session, you met a business called Form. Form is our kind of example business, and they are an ethical, size inclusive clothing company. So when we think about Form's mission, their mission is to provide trendy, chic, high quality, plus size streetwear made by ethical artists and brands from sizes extra small to 7X. It's a whole bunch of words, but this is what they're doing. They're providing this ethical, chic, trendy clothing in size inclusive sizes to their community. That's what they're doing. And the reason why they're doing it is because they envision a world where fashion is inclusive, empowering, and sustainable. That's their vision. That serves their mission. That's why they do their work, to get to that vision. Their communication objectives, what they want to get across to their audience, is that people of all sizes and races and genders deserve to feel good, look good, and know that their clothing was sourced ethically from brands who care. That's what they want to get across to people. This is kind of their driving force. The value proposition that they have is that they offer trendy, high fashion, ethically sourced clothing because people of size deserve to feel and look good in brands they can trust. This is their value proposition. This is the value that they provide. This is their differentiator, right? This is what sets them apart from other businesses. They provide this because they feel like this is such an important mission, because they feel like everyone deserves to feel and look good in clothing that they can trust. Their message is believable because there is currently a very limited selection of stores that provide fashionable, fat positive clothing, and their sizing usually stops at 4X, and they're usually made in sweatshops with low quality materials. So this is why you want to believe in Form's value proposition, because there's not a lot of people out there doing the work that they're doing. And the benefit to their customer is that they're providing chic, high fashion styles that are made ethically in their size. And finally, their target market, the people that they're hoping to get into their store, plus size shoppers who are interested in fashion, current trends, ethical clothing. Now you'll notice Form offers sizes extra small to 7X. So not all of their shoppers that come into their store need to be plus size to buy their products and services, but Form is really intentional about saying the people that we're targeting, the people we're designing our products for, are plus size shoppers. We have options for all sorts of bodies, but the people that are at the core of our work, the mission of our work, are plus size shoppers. And that doesn't mean they're excluding people from being able to purchase their products. They still have products that people can purchase that are not for plus size bodies, but they're being really clear and defined about where their goal is. And then when they think about their values, what they value as an organization: access. They value sustainability, advocacy, anti-racism, fat liberation. So as they're making decisions about who we're going to partner with, what vendors we're going to use, what clothing manufacturers we're going to use, what markets we're going to show up to, or other brands we're going to invite to our store, do they also align with those values? And then when we think about their priorities are larger sizes, fair trade, ethically sourced, community empowerment, body neutrality. Again, as they're making decisions for the products and services they provide, are the things that they're choosing aligning with those priorities as a business? I like to think about the brand house not just as a guideline for how you market your business, but also as a guideline for how you operate your business, for the decisions you make, for the partnerships you choose to take on, for the opportunities you choose to pursue, for the funders that you choose to work with. This can be a really great guideline for you for how do I decide where to move? How do I decide who to move with? So I'm going to give you we're gonna keep it pretty brief here. I'm gonna give you 8 minutes to start working on your brand house. You're not gonna get all of it done, but I want you to think about what are the things that are top of mind, what's jumping out to you where you're like, I want to get this on paper. I'm thinking about this right now. Let's take 8 minutes to get started on your brand house and just start getting ideas on paper. So if you're looking at your workbook, that's in your workbook, there's a blank copy of that. 8 minutes just to get us started, and I'm here when you have questions. I'm gonna give you about 30 more seconds, so find a good place to wrap up what you're writing. All right, let's come on back. We're gonna do one more kind of topic for today in these last 15 minutes that we have. Which when people think about their brand and their marketing, I think a lot of times we think about our brand feel and our visuals. This is kind of the fun thing, at least to me. Um, this is where we're thinking about our logo, our colors, our fonts, our symbols, things like that. That make our business memorable, that make our business easily recognizable, right? We know that color of red that Target uses. We know the Caribou Coffee logo. We know things like that, right? We can also use that brand feel and those visuals. They aren't entirely unintentional, right? We can use those to portray messages about what to expect for our business. They can communicate our values, they can communicate our style, the environment of our business, our general vibes. They can also communicate our cost bracket. All of those things are really intentional choices. They're things that we don't necessarily think we know. But when we look at examples and we look at brands, they're things that we kind of inherently feel when we look at brand visuals. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like and what that means. So the first thing we think about when we think about brand visuals is coloring. And regardless of how intentionally or consciously we think about this, we have associations with colors that are really strong. I think, for example, of like the Barbie pink had its moment last summer, right? And that's really tied to this idea of like youthful femininity, of energy, of like this girly vibe, right? Definitely associated with a lot of more feminine brands targeted towards women. When we think about red and we see red, we see powerful, we see passionate, we see energy. When we think yellow, we see optimistic, we see playful, we see happy. Green especially is used to portray like sustainability or eco-consciousness. You'll notice that a lot of gas stations and like companies that sell natural gas use green in their branding because they want us to be like, haha, it's not bad for the environment, right? There's this consciousness that they're trying to get across, sustainability, prosperity, things like that. When we think about coloring and we choose the colors for our brand or for our business, we can be really thoughtful about what aligns with the kind of ideas that we're trying to express, the thoughts that we're trying to get out of our audience. It's easy as business owners to be like, well, my favorite color is purple, so purple's the color we're going to do for our brand. And absolutely, if your favorite color is purple and you want to incorporate that into your brand colors, do it. I love that for you. And you can also be more intentional with this if you want to create a really strong brand that portrays a really particular message, especially in your visual branding. You'll notice like social media sites, a majority of them have some sort of blue in their branding. It portrays this idea of like trustworthiness. And in a world where social media is kind of an untrustworthy place in the public opinion, that becomes really valuable. So resources like this, good to refer back to and think about. I also, when I'm looking at branding, I want to throw a link in the chat. So give me just a second to grab it. If you want to DIY your brand visuals and your brand like coloring and logos and things like that, I really recommend for your colors using coolers. I just put it into the chat. It's like a generative palette. It'll make you color palettes with colors that coordinate and go well together. And you can just kind of keep regenerating and saving particular colors until you build a palette that you like. I've worked with brands that have helped, that this has been really helpful for. And then you can create this palette and it gives you all of the hex codes, which are the numbers associated with that really specific color. And then you can go to places like Canva. And in Canva, you can create your own logo, you can create your own brand, and that can help you. If you come with like those hex codes, the colors from coolers, you can make sure that your colors are always exactly the same. They're consistent. They always look the same. I want to just kind of call out here, and we can talk about it more later too if you have questions, but I think it's really easy for early stage entrepreneurs to think that they have to spend a ton of money branding as they're getting started. But I have found, I think something that's worth noting is that as we're just kicking off and as we're just getting started, we don't have to spend a ton of money on our branding, right? We can get started with what we're able to create by ourselves. And then as we grow and as we have the finances, we can invest that more in our branding. But I think it's really important to start slow and to start sustainably and not dump thousands of dollars into branding, but to see what you can create on your own first. Or if you know somebody who can do this with you, do it as a partner, do it for low cost, or maybe you're going to trade services or products in exchange for branding work. I just want to warn you not to spend a ton of money on branding up front, especially because as you start your business, you might start to develop new ideas of what your business is going to be long term, and you might want to recreate your brand or revisit that. And investing a ton of money up front before you know for sure exactly what your business is going to look like can be a really risky choice. So this is our coloring. We also want to think about fonts. People have a lot of associations with the fonts that they see. When we see these serif fonts, which means they have these little like lines on the edges, we think of like very classic looks. These more modern fonts that don't have the little lines, they're sans serif. We think about modernity. If we see something like this, we might think it's more bold. The script is more elegant. The handwritten look is more informal. We might have these like silly decorative fonts, and those are more dramatic. When we're choosing the fonts that we use in our branding and in the materials we create, it can be a really great way to add additional way to express what we're trying to share about our brand. So I have a few examples that I'm going to talk through of businesses that are local to Minnesota. First is Caribou Coffee. When we look at Caribou Coffee's brand, they have got this script, but it looks a little bit, it's not like super refined. We're not looking at like high class, very fancy, perfect script. It's a little like kind of off kilter. Not all the letters are facing quite the same direction. It's a bold font. They're expressing to me what I'm seeing there is kind of a little bit of a playfulness or a little bit of an informality. The color they're choosing is this deep blue, which typically is expressing like kind of trustworthiness or consistency. They've got this fun little logo, which is, you know, a caribou, a reindeer, but it's also a coffee bean, which is like a fun, sweet little look. It's a little bit playful. It's not stuffy. You're not expecting to walk into Caribou and be like, this is a library and I must be quiet. It's very serious. We're getting a little bit more of a playful look. On the other hand, if you're not familiar with Patina, they're like a gift store that's local to, they have a lot of locations here in the Twin Cities. When you look at the Patina logo, you're seeing something that's a little bit more refined. They've got this really standardized font that's in all caps. It's bold. They've got this laurel leaf logo, which seems like very classic. It says established in 1993. They're probably trying to express to us, we've been around for a while. We're not a new business. We, you know the landscape. But when I look at the Patina logo, I see something really refined, really classy. And to me, in my head, the association I'm making is this isn't where I'm going to get like a stellar deal. This is where I'm going to get something really nice. I'm not necessarily going in here and expecting like really low prices. My favorite example of branding is Lil Tijuana, and if you've never been there, it's on Eat Street in Minneapolis, and it's an incredible Mexican restaurant. But Little Tijuana's logo is incredible, right? We're not going into Little Tijuana and expecting like white tablecloths, servers and gloves. We don't have like a dress code policy there. Their logo is the sun with a little butt and cowboy boots. That's like fun and silly, right? Is their logo giving us a peace sign, a kiss? Are they smoking a cigarette? Who's to say? They have this silly little logo. They have a fun script. The description they have is neighborhood lounge. You're looking for casual. You're looking for community. This is a place that you're going to go. They've got yellow, which is a fun color. They have this tiny pop of red that coordinates with it. We're looking at playful, we're looking at community oriented, we're looking at casual, and all of that's coming across really well in this brand. You're not looking to go to a Michelin star restaurant at Lil Tijuana. And if you're getting that vibe, we're on different pages, right? This is a fun, different little thing, right? And they're a really cool community space, and they have a cult following in the Minneapolis area because they have this really clear brand. And people know exactly what to expect, and they have fun. So another example for you from Form, which is our ethical size inclusive clothing brand that we've been looking at. Form is using this green, right? They're expressing like eco-consciousness, sustainability. They have this serif kind of formal font because they want us to understand that like they're, you know, on top of things, they're organized, they've got it together. We have this kind of vision board here of the vibes that they're looking to use in their marketing images, very natural, very like kind of artistic. That's their example. In your workbook, I've got even more examples that you can look at of other brands and businesses and their kind of vision boards. But as you think through your own visual brand and maybe what you would want to express, I want to give you 2 minutes to just write down anything that's coming to mind, ideas you have, maybe colors you'd like to use, resources you want to look into, images or fonts that you think really resonated from that little bit that we talked about. Take 2 minutes and just brain dump any ideas you have in your head right now. And that's in your workbook, exercise 2-4. I don't know if I said that. And as you're finishing up what you're writing down, I got a couple kind of last minute bits and pieces for you before we close out for the day. So I think when we log off today, we're not going to have time to meet in our small groups, but as you log off today, I encourage you to take 2 minutes before you walk away from your computer to write down 1 to 3 action steps, things you want to do or create for your business based on what we talked about today. Maybe it's blocking an hour on your calendar to start some market research, or maybe it is writing a to-do for yourself to reach out to that person you know who works in marketing, and maybe they could help you out with your branding or just even look at what you've got and give you some feedback. Maybe it's setting aside some time to work on that brand house and share it with someone that you trust to get some of their ideas and feedback. Whatever that looks like for you, when we log off today, take a couple minutes, write down some action steps, and make a plan for how you're going to get to those. Your homework for today is twofold. One, just continue working on your market research, your brand house, things like that. The other thing is that on Talent LMS, there's a spreadsheet, and I'll toss it in our chat here, called SBE Financial Management and Planning. Next week, we're going to talk about finances, and we're going to have 2 financial advisors here for the session. You don't need to enter a whole bunch in here, but there's a tab about personal budgeting, and I want you to kind of come in either having maybe entered some of the information on there, or if you budget in a different way, having access to your personal budget, or if you don't budget at all, maybe making sure that you can log into your bank account, that you have access to your credit card statements, things like that. We're going to talk about both personal and business finance next week, and the more knowledge or access you have to your personal finance information, it's going to help you be able to build the other pieces. I'm not going to ask you to like share your bank account with the class, but just for yourself, if you have the time to start working on that personal budget tab, or to like make sure your own finances are accessible before next week's session, that'll really set you up for success. So next session is about financial management and planning. I'm not going to go through all of this just for the sake of time, but we're going to talk about all sorts of financial things. We're going to talk about gross margin. We're going to talk about when we break even, how we pay ourselves as business owners, how to plan for the slow seasons, all sorts of things to help you set yourself up for financial success. So with all of that said, it's been a pleasure to get to yap at you for 2 hours about finance or about marketing today. And I am happy to continue to be in touch if you have questions. I have a couple minutes if anybody has any pressing questions, I can stick around, but it's been a pleasure to chat with you all, and looking forward to next week talking about financial management and planning. Have a good day, everybody.
Thanks, you too.